Today's game is one of my favorite survival horror games of all time. This is Resident Evil for the PlayStation. Released in 1996, this game brought the survival horror genre to the forefront. Sure, there were games that came before it like Clock Tower for the Super Nintendo, but that game was only released in Japan, so not many people were able to play it. Inside the box here is the Resident Evil manual. Now, one thing that's really cool about the manual is that it gives you a description on all the different STARS members, from Alpha Team and Bravo Team. You can even order a strategy guide from here, but I don't think the offer will work anymore. Just saying. Just like in my Dead Space review, I'm going to talk about the atmosphere, the music, and the enemies. These three things are key in a horror game. Before Resident Evil, most horror games just had horror elements. Games like Castlevania had zombies, skeletons, Dracula, and Frankenstein. Nothing really measured up to Resident Evil when it first came out. This was definitely one of a kind. First of all, the opening cutscene is just a great way to start the game off. It feels like an old campy horror film, which is good for me because I love campy horror movies. The poor acting, the shoddy special effects, and the sets are just all so great to see. I love all the fog and the character dialogue in this scene. It really makes me think of something straight out of Evil Dead. Speaking of the camera work, someone was inspired by Evil Dead. This is one of my favorite ways to introduce the cast members of all time. I absolutely love this way because it's just so dang cheesy, and I just love cheesiness so much. The game throws you in without explaining anything to you, which is something that I think should be revisited in today's gaming generation. Honestly, the atmosphere is actually okay in this game. If you really like cheesy horror films like I do, you'll feel right at home. But if you're looking for something really scary, you might want to see something else first. This game is notorious for having very bad voice acting. It's so bad that it's just laughable.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
What you're about to see is one of the most iconic and legendary moments in all of video game history, and it truly terrified tons of people at the time. That little clip of the zombie turning around will be forever burned in the minds of gamers all over the world and from all different ages. One thing that this game is also well known for are its controls. They're often called tank controls, which means obviously your character moves like a tank. You push up on the D-pad to move forward, you push down to walk backwards, and you turn right and left to turn in the respectable directions. Needless to say, this is very confusing when you first start playing the game. If there's one thing I love about the Resident Evil games, at least the early ones, was the fixed camera angles. It made the game feel more like a movie, which was really cool. There was nothing like it before, and there really hasn't been anything like it since. Next, I'm going to talk about the music. I think the music in Resident Evil is really well done. There's a real sense of atmosphere in the music. It sets the mood perfectly. It is really awesome when you walk around in the mansion and all you hear is that chilling music that just gives you goosebumps. The music tracks aren't that long. They're usually about a minute before it loops, which is not really a bad thing, but it kind of makes me wish there was a little bit more to it. And that's all there is to say about the music. Yeah, it's not a whole lot, but it gets the job done and it does the job well. Right now, it's time to talk about the enemies of Resident Evil. First off, you come across zombies, dogs, and spiders, and even crows. They're not that hard to deal with, just shoot them a few times and you'll fall over dead. It's when you get halfway through the game when the hunters come. And when the hunters come, it's a whole different ball game, son. They take 4 shotgun shots, and they can take your head off whenever they want. I won't spoil the other enemies in the game because I would rather have you figure them out what they are. The zombies in this game are absolutely brain dead. They just wander off into walls and just walk right by you sometimes. So it's good to see that in the future games that their AI definitely improved. I want to talk about the style of the game. I love the pre-rendered backgrounds in this game. It just makes the game look so unique and cool, and I'm glad they stuck with it for a lot of the series. The character models are also done really well. I love the way they look in this game. Yeah, they might be a bit too polygonal for some people, but in my case, that just makes me love it even more because I just love the way chunky games look. I love the way retro games look with their chunkiness. I just love it to death, so it's all good for me. I know nowadays this doesn't look very good, but I still think it holds up pretty well for the PlayStation. I also love the loading screens in this game. They're just so classic to look at. And quite frankly, I'm glad they hide the actual loading screens because it would just be boring to stare at a black screen for 5 seconds. I would like to thank you guys for watching this video. I'm glad you took time out of your day to pay attention to me for about 5 to 7 minutes. I really appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in another video.